Good afternoon. I'm Jess De Los Santos. This is One News Now. Low-income families in the NCR Plus bubble will no longer receive another round of assistance despite the extension of the enhanced community quarantine. Maricel Halili joins us live from Mandaluyong City to discuss this. Maricel, did Malacanang explain why there will no longer be additional ayuda for the second week of stricter lockdown?
Jester, the problem here is that presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said that we have limited the budget now, so it will be difficult for the government to provide another round of amelioration because, as we all know, the approximately 22 or 23 billion budget allotted for the amelioration for those who are affected by the SCQ is just leftover or savings from the Bayanihan 2. So the economic managers still have to study where to get the possible budget should there be another round of amelioration.
Well, Masay, given that this is still a leftover, of course, from the previous Bayanihan packages, does the palace believe that the 1,000 to 4,000 peso assistance is enough for 2 weeks? And when will the distribution even start?
They admitted that 1,000 peso per individual assistance is not enough to pay for the essentials or the basic needs of these individuals who will be affected by the implementation of the enhanced community quarantine. Well, the DSWD said that the budget has already been distributed to the local government units, so they expect that the distribution of financial assistance will start tomorrow.
Now, what people want to know is Malacanang looking at extending the ECQ for another week?
It'll be difficult to answer that for now, Jess. Secretary Roque, as well as Health Undersecretary Vergere, mentioned that they will still have a meeting about this after the implementation up until April 11. Their considerations would be, number one, the healthcare capacity in the NCR Plus area, because as we all know, majority of the hospitals, particularly in Metro Manila, are now in critical situations, so they have to consider that. And number two, they also have to consider the average daily growth rate of the COVID-19 cases. Although the Octa research has acknowledged that there is a slight downtrend when it comes to the increase of the number of COVID cases, but this is not enough. They still need more time to control the number of cases that are being brought to the hospitals, particularly here in Metro Manila. So they still have to talk about it, Jess.
Okay, you did mention already about as well utilization of hospitals here. Were these concerns, especially in COVID bed occupancy in Metro Manila, discussed during the briefing, and what did spokesman Roque or Yusek Vergere said about it?
Well, they admitted that it's still a problem right now since, if my memory serves me right, there's about 70% occupancy rate when it comes to the ICU and isolation bed capacity in centers here in Metro Manila. So it's a bit alarming considering that the increase of COVID-19 cases is still there. And so they admitted that it remains to be a problem, but then the government is doing everything. As usual, they said that they are looking for additional augmentation for the health workers. And aside from that, there will be additional 110 bed capacity in isolation centers. And hopefully they can extract those COVID patients who are suffering from mild symptoms or those asymptomatic patients from the hospital so that they can focus more on those who are experiencing severe symptoms.
All right, of course, apart from COVID-19, one of the more pressing issues, of course, that we saw over the Lenten break, you have the Chinese ships in the West Philippine Sea. What's the palace's reaction to the exchange between China and Defense Chief Delfin Lorenzana over the weekend?
Secretary Roque said that, of course, they support the statement of Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana, and he reiterated that the government will continue to protect what's ours. He also reiterated that the president have already met with the Chinese ambassador to the Philippines recently, and the president has already emphasized the position of the government imposing the decision or of the arbit or prob- rather the arbitral ruling, and that we stick to our position that we will protect what's ours.
Okay, moving on from there, last week we already did report about Secretary Guevara saying, that the concession agreement with Manila Water has been signed. This time around, you have more details from the palace regarding that one. What are the updates?
Yes, just Secretary Guevara as well as Secretary Roque confirmed that they have already signed the concession agreement between Manila Water and the national government. Of course, they enumerated a lot of provisions or clauses in the agreement that they have amended, but it's a bit too many to enumerate all those. But the salient points, I guess, two of the most salient points are number one, they removed the non-interference clause of the government. It means that the government can now interfere if they feel that the public or the consumers need protection from the water concessionaires, or at least for the policy that the water concessionaires want to impose. And number two, the water concessionaire cannot pass the corporate income tax to the consumers anymore. So they have to pay that particular tax. So those are two of the most salient points.
And of course, after that, Maynila's concession agreement will be up for discussion next. But this time also, you have one other development, this time from the Supreme Court. Did the palace confirm the appointment of Justice Alexander Gismundo as Chief Justice? And what did the palace officials say about him?
Yes, finally, Jess, Secretary Roque confirmed the appointment of our new Chief Justice. He acknowledged that the new Chief Justice has already served in the Supreme Court for quite a long time. So he's a well-respected individual in the Supreme Court.
All right, thank you very much for those updates, Maricel Halili. Let's now check in on COVID-19 vaccine updates from around the world. Johnson & Johnson has filed an emergency use application for its single-dose COVID-19 vaccine in the Philippines. Food and Drug Administration Chief Eric Domingo says they are now evaluating the documents submitted Wednesday last week. Thousands of Pakistanis are scrambling to buy their own doses of Russia's Sputnik V shot as it has become available commercially. This comes after the government of Pakistan allowed the private sector to directly import the vaccine for the general public. And as England prepares to reopen its economy, the country will launch a vaccine passport trial in nightclubs and football matches in the coming weeks. The passport will serve as a COVID-19 status certification to determine whether a person has already been vaccinated against the virus. Pork prices hit as much as 400 pesos per kilo a few days before the 60-day price cap ends. Shaila Francisco is reporting live from Mandaluyong for more details. Shaila, what's the reason for this price hike?
Yes, pork prices are now 100 peso higher than the imposed price ceiling just days before the policy gets lifted. A further increase is expected as hog racers start their fourth holiday, or pig holiday rather, today. Backyard racers have decided to stop selling their hogs to dealers and retailers who protest the government's decision on pork imports, according to Pork Producers Federation of the Philippines Vice President Nicanor Briones. Last week, President Duterte recommended to increase the minimum access volume of pork by 350,000 metric tons to augment local market supply. Briones said this will kill the local industry and will result in closure of backyard farms. He said the pig holiday will continue until the government agrees to consult with them regarding the matter. With this, pork prices continue to surge due to limited supply by dealers. Retailers and pork producers expect pork prices to go beyond 400 pesos per kilo this week. Aside from this, the transport subsidy given to racers to bring in pork to Metro Manila will be halted once the price ceiling duration ends on April 8th. For its part, the DA says it is studying other subsidies and assistance that could be given to hog racers. Meanwhile, Agriculture Secretary William Dar says they are targeting to decide on suggested retail price for both local and imported pork before April 8th. Just the DA is also appealing to hog racers to continue to sell pork to avoid huge losses and to also help consumers. Jess?
All right, thank you for those updates and stay safe. That was Shaila Francisco reporting live from Mandaluyong. In other news, one international studies professor believes that President Duterte should be given the benefit of the doubt on issues surrounding the West Philippine Sea dispute. Professor Renato De Castro told Agenda that Duterte's position has something to do with his worldview. De Castro explained that Duterte is likely afraid that the Philippines might be caught in a conflict between China and the United States. Recall that nearly 200 Chinese vessels have been spotted by the armed forces at the Julian Felipe Reef in the West Philippine Sea. Critics have repeatedly claimed that Beijing's increasing aggression over the disputed waters is a result of Duterte's lack of concern.
In his several speeches that I have, of course, monitored, this is a common theme. We have to give him the benefit of the doubt. Probably he's sincere, that he's afraid that we will be caught in the middle.
For more updates, visit News 5, the Philippine Star, and Business World online. Visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. I'm Jess De Los Santos. We are One News.